website to learn about the 4-section system. And I know some of you have been watching the previous videos that sort of built up to this one, learning about what I know in terms of organization and how I developed the system and how I developed the tools for using the system, the scrap rack, and now it's time to learn about that system itself. Well, I'm so excited to be teaching about the 4-section system because it can help you in so many ways with crafting. And it doesn't really matter what kind of craft you're most interested in. If it's a craft that takes a lot of little bits and pieces, the 4-section system is really going to help you take control of those things. So before I really get into the 4-section system, I just want to talk a little bit about organization in general. What happens with organization? Every January we get inundated with magazines that tell us how to get organized. And really, if you start flipping through those magazines, what those magazines are teaching you is how to containerize your supplies or anything in your house. The Get Organized closet or the Get Organized kitchen or whatever it is, they all talk about putting things in boxes or bins or drawers or totes and sort of hiding them away. So that's more of containerization than organization. So if you look up the definition for organization in the dictionary, it's going to say something like to group together into an organized, functional, structured whole, right? And it's that whole word that's really important because when we talk about organizing our craft supplies, we want to think about everything that we have to organize for our craft supplies all at the same time, not containerizing individual bits and pieces of the hobby or card making or quilting or whatever it is. We want to think in broad terms of the whole craft and the whole hobby. And it's easiest to relate this to something almost all of us have, a silverware drawer, right? So with scrapbooking or card making or any kind of crafting, we're sort of programmed to containerize. Eyelets here, brads here, beads here, stickers over here, paper over here. So we separate those things by what they are rather than how we use them. Now, if you think about your silverware drawer, in the silverware drawer, you've kept everything together that you're going to use together, right? So when you're ready to set the table, you open the drawer, knives, forks, spoons, soup spoons, salad forks, dinner forks, whatever. They're all right there. It makes it really easy to set the table. And after dinner and those dishes get washed or go through the dishwasher, it makes it really easy to put those pieces of silverware away, right? I mean, think about it. If you took your knives and put them in a basket and your spoons and put them in a jar on the windowsill and your forks and hung them randomly around the kitchen, setting the table would be a pain in the neck, and putting dishes away when you're unloading the dishwasher would be even more difficult. So why do we do it with things like our scrapbooking supplies? So with the silverware drawer, we're keeping things together we would use together. And with scrapbooking, we're separating things out all over the place. So if you think about organization as keeping things together that you would use together, it's going to make it a lot easier to sort of embrace the 4-section system. So why is the 4-section system important and how is it going to help? Well, first of all, when you put something away in your scrapbooking space or your card making desk or whatever it is that you use, you store it somewhere and then you need it. So you rely on your brain for two major pieces of information. The first piece of information is, do I have it? And if your brain answers in the affirmative, yes, you've got that, then you've got to ask that dreaded second question. Where did I put it? And so there's a high likelihood, if you're like so many of us loaded with craft supplies, that your brain will say, I'm not sure where it is, but I know it'll be faster to run up to the craft and hobby store and buy a new one than it is to find the one that you've got. And that's what we're trying to avoid here. We want to be able to put our hands on things quickly and easily, and that means we have to make it really easy for our brain to find our stuff or to direct us to our stuff. So when we talk about craft supplies, we're going to organize all our supplies into 4 major categories. That's the 4-section system. And it's super easy for your brain to get its brain around, I guess. So the first section is alphabets and numbers. So this section is anything that's alphanumeric, letters, numbers, punctuation marks, but not theme specific. Now also, I tend to group into that alphanumeric category anything that has to do with titles or journaling. So think about all the written word, and that's going to go in that first section. That's section number 1. Section number 2 is themes A to Z. And these are all the things that you make cards about or that you scrapbook about, whatever your hobby is, organized alphabetically. So animals, baby, camping, bon voyage, retirement, happy birthday, congratulations, all of those types of things are going to be categorized alphabetically. As long as they're generic themes that could work across any platform of uses, they're all going to go together. So that when you do need to make a get well card, or you want to create a scrapbook page for basketball or whatever it is, you're only going to one place, and you're going to find within that place everything that matches that theme, whether it's a sticker, a die cut, an example of a punch, or an example of a Cricut cartridge. Maybe it's a Nestabilities die or Spellbinders die. Any of those things, they're all going to be grouped together so that you can find them and that you can use them. So that second section is themes A to Z. The third section is the calendar year. And so these are all the holiday and seasonal materials that happen every year, year in, year out. They're based on seasons and holidays. Super simple for your brain to remember that also. And then the final section is the rainbow. And the rainbow is where you put everything grouped by color that doesn't fit into a theme or category in the first three sections. So things like brads and eyelets and ribbon and fiber and paper, anything that's just a generic color, flowers, all of those types of things are going to go into the rainbow section. So also in your rainbow section, you might have glitter or samples of inks or chalks or pens, and all of those things. Once you start thinking in a four-section system, you're able to create representations of those things and put them into the four-section system. So at this point, I'd like to invite you to come on over and take a look at my scrap rack, and as I flip through it a little bit, I'll go through with you and tell you sort of what I'm thinking and how things work within that four-section system. Now the wonderful thing about the four-section system is it doesn't matter how much or how little stuff you have. It's so easy for your brain to remember those four major categories. I mean, think about it. If you were going to make a Halloween card, right now you might have to go to several different places to find a Halloween punch or a Halloween stamp example or a sticker or a border or a trim or a ribbon, as opposed to just saying, oh, I'm making something for Halloween. That means I just go to the October tab in my calendar year section, in section 3. Holidays and seasons. So let's come on over and I'll take you through a quick little tour of my own personal scrap rack. And it is a little bit messy, I'll confess to that, but you'll get a great idea of how the whole system works. This is my actual scrap rack. This is the tool that I use when I'm doing any kind of crafting, card making, scrapbooking, making a gift album for somebody or a mini album. Everything I need is right here and at my fingertips. One of the nicest things about using this system where everything's out in front of you, visible and accessible, is that if you only have a few minutes to craft, you can actually be productive in those few minutes. The other thing is, it inspires you to use your supplies for things you wouldn't normally use them for. So if it's your child's birthday and you wanted to put a happy birthday rub-on their milk glass in the morning or a sticker on their lunch bag, if you have to go into your craft area and dig and search through boxes and bins and drawers and totes, you're not as likely to use those stickers or those rub-ons or those other things that you've acquired because it takes too long. But if you could just walk into your craft room and say, okay, I need a birthday thing, go to your birthday section, find that birthday sticker or rub-on, go and put it on the milk glass or the lunch bag, you're actually going to use more of what you have and be more creative in those uses because it's easy. I mentioned earlier about making a Halloween card. Well, with this system, if you want to find your Halloween supplies, you're just going to go to that October tab and you're going to see everything you've got to make that Halloween card. So it's quick and it's easy, it's visible and accessible. Really simple. Let me go back and start all over with the four-section system now. So the very first section in my scrap rack is alphanumeric. So anything that's a letter, number, or punctuation mark or not theme specific. Now I've also included templates for tags or titles or journaling. So anything that's going to get me to write somehow or that's associated with writing, I'm going to put it in this first section. So I've got a journaling template here, and I've got some 8.5 by 11 stickers and some metal embellishment letters. Doesn't matter what it is, if it's alphanumeric and not theme specific, you're going to find it in my scrap rack right in this first section. So different size things, unmounted rubber stamps. So right here I have a set of unmounted rubber stamps, and I just pop them into a pocket Now, when I'm crafting, whereas I might have forgotten about them because they were stored away somewhere, they're going to pop up for me, and I'm actually going to see them and use them. So that's that first section, alphanumeric. Anything that's a letter, number, or punctuation mark and not theme specific. So my second section is themes A to Z. So these are all the things that I craft about organized alphabetically, and it's going to be different for everybody. So my tabs say things like animals, birthdays, boy stuff. I have 2 boys. Camping, sports, tools, and then I have this WOW section. This is challenging for so many people. WOW means words of wisdom, right? So you have all those little quotes and sayings and there come in rub-ons and vellums, and you're never sure what to do with them because they're not exactly theme specific. Well, you can just put them in WOW, words of wisdom, and then when you're looking for some little add-on, little poem or whatever, you can go right to that section and you can see what all those choices are. You know, a lot of times they're just words with a dictionary definition or whatever, but those all can go right there in that one section. So we've covered section 1, alphanumeric, section 2, themes A to Z, and that moves us into section 3, the calendar year. So the calendar year is where you're going to put everything organized January to December based on the particular event. So not a lot in January for me, but a lot of stuff in February for Valentine's Day, and March gets us into St. Patrick's Day, but really simple Easter to follow through that calendar year. So whether I'm working on something for 4th of July or like I said, a Halloween event or a Thanksgiving event, all I have to do is go to that tab and I can see everything I've got, whether it's a turkey embellishment or pumpkin bread or whatever it is. It's just right there at my fingertips. Then the final section is the rainbow. The rainbow is the hardest section for people to embrace because it is the section that most often we're discouraged from using by sort of the conventional wisdom, right? So the idea of mingling your brads in the same area with your glitter, it gives some people a stomach ache, right? I can't put my brads with my glitter, and heaven forbid I should put my eyelets next to my brads. But think about it. When you're creating something and you look at that page and you think to yourself, this needs an orange eyelet, now you go to your drawer, you pull out your eyelet box, you go open the eyelet box, you dig through there looking for the perfect orange eyelet. And in that situation, you may have missed other really wonderful things, an orange flower or orange ribbon, other things that you know how to use and you've totally forgotten. When you start grouping your things by color, when you say, I need an orange eyelet, and you go to orange, all of a sudden you remember, hey, I have this glitter or I have this ribbon or fiber or whatever, I could be using that as well. So not only is it faster and easier to find that orange eyelet, it's more efficient in terms of being able to use other products as well. So it really makes it simple. Now what I really want to encourage you to do is include your scraps right into your scrap rack, into your 4-section system. So if you have scraps left over from a Christmas paper or Christmas project or a birthday project, then go right in those sections. But especially in your rainbow section, if you decide on a minimum scrap size and say to yourself, I'm not going to keep anything that's not at least whatever it is. Card makers use little tiny scraps, so it's worth it to save them. If you're a scrapbooker, you might only want to save scraps that are at least 6 by 6. But whatever it is, at the end of your project, when you start cleaning up, you're going to throw away anything that doesn't meet your minimum, and then you're going to put into your scrap rack anything that does. So the next time you need a particular color scrap, you can go right to that color and pull a scrap out that's approximately the right size and get better use out of that product as well. So really simple, really easy to actually use those things that you've been saving instead of just storing them up in file folders or in a scrap bin or wherever you have them stored, but it makes it that much more efficient. Now, I mentioned earlier about stamps and punches and Cricut and those kind of things. Well, you really want to make the most of those things as well. So include an example of that Cricut cartridge. So maybe you photocopy the back of the box if you have a travel Cricut cartridge, which I do. So let's go to my travel section right here. And let me show you what I've done with my little example of for my Cricut cartridge. Okay, so here's an example. This is just a picture of the back of the Cricut box that matches. So I just photocopied the Cricut box. I gave the box a number 1, and I gave the photocopy a number 1. And then I'm just going to slip this example of what's on that Cricut cartridge right into my travel section in my scrap rack. So when I'm working on travel pages, I'm going to flip by that and I'm going to see that Cricut cartridge. So I may have forgotten the Cricut cartridge, that I even owned it, or didn't think about using the Cricut for that particular thing. And now, not only do I know what's on the cartridge, I know what the theme is, and I know that I can just go to my shelf, grab box number 1, pull it off the shelf, and have exactly that. So by incorporating examples of woodblock stamps or punches or any other tools that you've got right into your 4-section system, you're going to get a far greater use out of those things as well, just by taking a little bit of time and making sure those examples get into this different sections. So if this particular cartridge had not only an alphabet, not only the icons for travel, but also had alphabets in it, I would make 2 copies of the back, and I would put one in alphanumeric and one in travel, and that way I would see that alphabet font in the front when I was looking, so I'd remember that I had that as a Cricut font as well. So there's a lot of ways to sort of cross-reference things so that when you are flipping through and looking for things, you remember that you've got other tools at your disposal as well. Things that you've invested a lot of money in, and now you're going to get a lot better use out of those things as well. Perhaps one of the nicest things, though, about working with the scrap rack system is that when you finish a project, when you've completed a project, and you have those leftover pieces on your desktop, if I was working on travel pages and I had taken out this sheet of stickers to use it, and then I used a couple stickers off it and I just set it aside, when I was ready to clean up, it wouldn't be a challenge to put it away. I would just flip back to that section, take that sticker, and slide it right back into the pocket. So not only is it easier to work with things, it's really easy to put things away as well. So just really so much versatility. The other nice thing about the 4-section system is so many of us love to craft with our friends. So they'll come to our house, we'll go to theirs, or we'll go to an event. When you have everything organized in the 4-section system, even though your craft pals might not know what the 4-section system is, they may have never taken one of my classes, but if they say to you, hey, I need a brad for Christmas, or Christmas brad, or candy cane brad, or whatever it is, do you have that? You don't have to go looking for it for them. You can say, yeah, go look at my scrap rack. It's going to be under the December tab. Just flip there. And then even people that you're sharing your supplies with can quickly and easily find what you've got. So you'll be making smarter purchases as well. You won't be buying things that duplicate what you already own because you can see those things and find them, but you'll be buying things that complement what you already own so that you can work with those things together. Okay, so just in a quick nutshell, 4-section system. First section is alphanumeric. Second section is themes A to Z. Third section is the calendar year. And the 4th section is the rainbow. Oh, one more thing. Sorry, there's always one more thing with me. Have you noticed that? So one more thing, when you're putting your eyelets and your glitter and your beads and those kinds of little things into your scrap rack, you just need to put them in a small Ziploc bag. So no matter what it is, get a handful of those small Ziploc bags, keep them handy. When you get new eyelets or new buttons or new glitter or whatever, fill that little Ziploc bag and put it in the right category with where it goes. Now, especially things like glitter, which you might not normally have with you at a crop or class, or which you might forget to use because they're buried in a cabinet somewhere. When you've got that little Ziploc bag full of red glitter and you're working on a page that you want to embellish with red, you're going to see that little Ziploc bag. And we all know a little bit of glitter goes a long way. So that little Ziploc bag is going to give you plenty of glitter to finish your project. And then when you empty that Ziploc bag out, you can go over to your cabinets, find the big jar of red glitter, and refill the bag. So there's all kinds of little tips and tricks about getting your things organized, keeping them organized, and incorporating everything into it. But the bottom line is, once you start working with the 4-section system, you'll be amazed at how much more you can get done and how much less time it takes you to get those things done. Thanks again for tuning in to visit me for the 4-section system video. If you haven't seen the previous 2 videos, I hope you'll take a chance to watch those. One is called Meet Tiffany, and it kind of tells you about my history. And the other one is called Meet the Scrap Rack, and it takes you through the scrap rack system one component at a time. So you can really understand what the component pieces are for that, for the scrap rack product line. Have a great day. I hope when you're looking for organization, you'll come back and let me Tiffanyze your stuff in a scrap rack.